the Parramatta podcast, proudly brought to you by Rubbish Removal Kings, The Corner Post, Flash Conveyancing, Parramatta Leagues Club, Wine Barrels Event Hire Sydney, and Wick Coffee, proud sponsors of the Parramatta podcast.
We are Flash Conveyancing, your property legal team, and you're listening the Para Cave podcast. If you are buying or selling property in New South Wales, call us. Call Flash Conveyancing.
Let's go! Welcome back to another show. Hi, how are ya? It's a Parramatta podcast coming at ya. Turn it up, feel the vibe, blue and gold. Step inside the cave. Yeah. Easy try in the corner. Here's your host, Troy Water. Coming to you live from the world famous Parramatta.
Hi, how are ya? Welcome back to another episode of the Parramatta podcast, and this is another interview podcast, and today's going to be a very interesting one because it's something that I probably haven't covered off on on the podcast, and it's sort of a gentleman who is in the sporting industry. Now, it's a massive industry, the sporting industry, obviously, but has almost been in this industry for about 50 years, and is currently the Australian agent for Italian sportswear company Macron, but is also a massive Manly fan as well. Not that we will hold that against him, because I'm a Para fan, but welcome to the Parramatta podcast, Mr. Sean Thomas.
Thanks, Troy. Thanks for having me this evening.
Not a problem. Look, let's get into the rugby league side of things and your love for the Manly Sea Eagles.
Born and bred with a maroon eye and a white eye.
Okay, well then that shows that there's probably no choice of which team to support. But when did all that support for the Manly Sea Eagles start, and how did the support come about?
Mate, as a kid, I went to the Brookvale Oval at a game at about 5 years old with my father. And a guy called Dennis Beebe, who Dad was working for Dad at the time, and he came across from rugby union into the rugby league quarters. So we started the weekend ritual of going to watch Manly play at Brookvale Oval when they were there. Back in the days, there was the wooden grandstand on the western front.
Right, nice. And who were some of the favourite players to watch back in those days?
Oh, look, I mean, you got your likes, your Bob Fultons, of course, probably one of the immortals, or one of the very best of the immortals. You had guys that came across in different areas. Bill Hamilton, Phil Lowe was a massive unit of a man. Manly were very lucky in those days, and they got very good service out of the Englishmen.
Okay, yeah.
When you look at Gary Stevens, Stephen Norton, right through the days even up to the 80s with Kevin Ward, and the late Hugh Waddle, who came out straight after Kevin the following year. Hugh was an English front row, and we had the pleasure of actually taking him to open a sports store once up at Sawtell.
Okay.
And we had Darryl Williams, Mal Cochran, myself, and Hugh Waddle. Hugh will go down in history as being able to, shall we say, disguise his voice into the sounds of telephone calls, much to the likes of the road stops along the way. But all in all, Manly had great service out of the Englishmen. And it was always a great era to watch. I mean, the 70s were great. Like you guys had the 80s, we had the 70s. We had 72, 73, 76 and 78. 78 will always go down. When you're sleeping outside the grand finals, as we did as kids in those days, you slept outside the ground. You did everything you could. You took the local Manly dailies to pieces. We made all the banners that used to be part of in those days, the Sheridan stand and the Sutter stand. A lot of great times for a lot of great people. We started the Manly Supporters Club. Give me an M, give me an A. We created all of the different songs. In fact, we had guy called David White, who was the 2SM in those days. He was the DJ.
Okay.
He had Men at Work. I did the reworded the whole Men at Work Be Good Johnny song to the John Rebo song.
Okay.
So he actually had the whole thing reworded. We reworded it and they performed it for us, which was great fun.
Now, how much influence, I guess, on the result does someone like a supporters club do for their team on the field? Because
you've only got to look at Combank Stadium to work that one out. You know, when you look at Combank Stadium, you know, you look at Brookvale Oval in its heyday, with all the cheers that used to come out. The supporters, it doesn't matter what sport you play, having that support behind that team in any sport. And I've been involved with basketball for 30 years, cricket with Manly as well, baseball with Manly. But to have that sort of support behind you in any sport you play drives you on to the next level.
Yeah, no, definitely, and it's such an important part these days as well, as you said, in the stands for the clubs. And if you can create that atmosphere, definitely, then it does. It's almost like a 14th player on the field for that team, and it can give the team a massive boost. That's for sure. As a youngster growing up, did you ever play rugby league as well?
Played rugby league for the Forestville Ferrets. Played rugby union for the Forest.
How'd you go at rugby league?
Didn't mind it. Not as good as I was at say basketball or anything else like that. But we had a situation there. Of course, a lot of us used to play union on a Friday afternoon for school.
Yeah.
Then we'd play union on Saturday morning for Forest, and then we'd play league in the afternoon. Probably the guy that most people may remember, a guy called Fred Teasdale. He was there.
Okay.
Freddie was part of our group that played in the rugby league in those days.
Nice. Which position were you?
Up in the front, mate, in the pigs, second row.
Okay, nice.
Would love to have played out on the wing or something like that, but just didn't quite have the toe to make it that far.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Well, obviously, you mentioned the 70s there, a great era for the Manly Sea Eagles. But, I mean, obviously, outside the grand final wins, is there any favourite Manly games from over the years that you've just, really loved?
Look, there's a game that happened, it wasn't in the 70s, but it was a game that happened. Manly used to have the wood on the Brisbane Broncos.
Okay, yeah.
And a lot of people will remember this because it was a TV game on a Sunday afternoon. And the Broncos actually led Manly 26-4, coming early into the second half. And all of a sudden, Manly started to score. And Fatty's doing the commentary. He's in Channel 9 commentary. And he goes, come on, you Manly fans, because all the Manly fans were walking out. They've gone 26-4, we're going home. All of a sudden, better come back. It's 26-10. Come on, you Manly fans, come back. 26-16. Come back, you Manly fans, 26-20. Then all of a sudden, it became 26-24. Brendan Reeves got to kick the ball from the sideline. He boots it over, bang. Probably the game I sat behind Matthew Ridge the day that he kicked the goal that either decided to be a 61-0 or a 59-0 win over the hapless St George Dragons, just like you guys did on the weekend.
Yeah.
To sit behind it and watch it go and think that's going to be 61-0, not a problem at all.
Wow. Yeah.
Probably a little bit young to have remembered the 70-7 with Manly over Penrith, but definitely were there for the 61-0. That was fun.
Yeah, I bet any big score is a great thing. That's for sure. I've been to Brookvale.
Yeah, well, we've been on the other end of it as well, like your blokes. I mean, when you're on the other end of it, it's like, ouch, it hurts.
Well, yeah, definitely, for sure. Well, you mentioned Fatty Vaughton there, and I'm assuming almost spending 50 years in the sporting industry, you've met a lot of people and become friends with them. But Fatty Vaughton, we've seen him on the footy show in the past and the like, but is there a story that you can tell us that we probably haven't heard about Fatty at all?
Mate, Fatty came, when he first came to Sydney, he was on $2,000 a year. He had an old beat-up old Monaro with the old vinyl roof on it. He worked in the Commonwealth Bank down at DY. The first ever job I had in retail or in the sporting industry, we did our banking with the Commonwealth Bank in DY.
Right, okay, yeah.
His now wife, actually, we used to sit next, they were both tellers next to each other, and she used to look at him and go, Sean, what do you see in that idiot? He's a clown, he's a fool. But the upshot is they both get married in later life. It's her second marriage, his first marriage. And I'm like, yeah, well, Kim, what happens now? So he's a very, the man himself, a great bloke.
Yep.
Had an immense football brain. I mean, you and I both conversed over this one before with the State of Origin that year, winning games 2-0. But he just had a football brain about him. A lot of people didn't give him credit for what he was.
Yeah,
Very
no,
good, mate. Well, there is an actual another story to this. Peter Wynn, for argument's sake, you're one of your legendary heroes.
yeah,
Peter was actually due to sign to Manly,
okay,
but at the last moment up there in Maitland, something happens, and Peter ends up signing with Parramatta. So when Manly missed out on Peter Wynn, they ended up signing this red-headed bloke from Brisbane, Paul
right.
Vaughan.
Oh, wow, okay.
Fatty and Gator are actually very good mates with each other. So it's great to sort of see the camaraderie that exists. You know, they were rivals in their day, but they're also great mates afterwards. Of course, they toured together as Australian players and New South Wales players, but great people. And I mean, I have a great relationship, mateship with Peter these days, and not the least of which because of the store, but just in general. I mean, his partner and my mother, his partner's aunties and uncles grew up with my mother when she came out from the Second World War.
Okay.
So she lived in Amsterdam during the Second World War, ferrying the Jewish kids underneath the houses now to the resistance to save their lives. But when she came out, they ended up getting a job through her father out at Elders in Moree, which is
Right.
where the Assefs come from. Mark Assef, which is Peter Wynn's partner. So they actually all came out of Moree. So it's an interesting we bend and twist together.
Yeah, no, that is very interesting. I remember hearing a story from Ray Price about, I think there was I'm not exactly 100% sure who the players were. I'll have to go back and have a listen to it. But there was some more Parramatta players that were being offered contracts at Manly. And he said, look, you can go there for more money, but we're going to win more games than you. And I'm going to bash the shit out of you. It just shows you the rivalry that it was back in those days.
And you look at Ray at the end of it. I don't know who bashed who, but I mean, he's definitely a warhorse.
Oh, definitely.
You know, he was one of that elite group of rugby union players like your John Brass and everybody else that came across from rugby and really made a name for themselves at the club level and the international level in rugby league.
Yeah, no, that's he's certainly a warhorse, and he just had his Ray Price Golf Day up there in Queensland, and it was a great success as well. So,
No doubt Fatty would have been playing golf in that because he loves his golf.
yeah, no, that's for sure. He certainly talked about it on the Footy Show, beating Sterlo a few times as well.
Takes the money.
Yeah, that's it. Well, speaking of Sterlo and myself being a Para fan, obviously Manly and Parramatta are big rivals. What about some of those games, some of those clashes between over the years? Obviously, you've seen a few.
Seen quite a few. I've seen, as we would say, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, the ugly being the 82, 83. Not very remembering on those ones, but there's been other ones over the years. I mean, the rivalry is just great. Doesn't matter which. You can mark it in your diary as soon as you see it. Bang, bang. There's a home game, there's a away game, and it's good because with this stupid draw that's imbalanced that doesn't allow every team a home and an away game, to know that you're basically always going to have a home game between Manly and Parramatta and an away game between Manly and Parramatta is great. Sterlo, 76 grand final, we get it. We get the wood over you, but you guys come firing back, of course, in 82, 83, giving us a dose of Brett Kenny at his very, very best.
Yeah, no, 2 tries in each of those grand finals and 2 in 1981 as well against Newtown.
New South, yeah.
Yeah.
He lives up here on the Central Coast now.
Yeah, great fella, Bert, and in my opinion, and many others' opinions, should be an immortal of rugby league. What about yourself? Do you think Brett should be an immortal of rugby league?
It's one of those hard definitions. It's like everybody used to try and compare Don Bradman against other cricketers. I mean, how do you compare what a lot of the players have today that against the likes of what Bradman had? How do you compare a Brett Kenny against, say, who's one of your leading 5'8" today? You look at it and you think, bang, how do you compare Andrew Johns? We look at this usage of the word immortal and you think, okay, how many immortals have we got? Legends, maybe you call them, a select group are called legends, and then they become immortals. I just think sometimes we grace people with the name immortal far too quickly,
okay,
even though they're legends of players.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's also, I guess, pretty hard as well about the eras as well, because they played in different eras and different rules and different types of players.
You got, 6 tackle, you had 4 tackle rules back in the early days. You had 0 tackles at one stage. It's like the things, and as we were saying before, it's the role players. The role players that the likes of Parramatta and Manly had over the years that allowed the superstars to then go and sort of do their thing. Bang, that's amazing.
Now, talking about the rivalry, is the rivalry as intense now as it was back then? Do you think in the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 90s? Is the rivalry as intense between Parramatta and Manly now, or was it?
I don't think the rivalry of the 80s, the 70s and 80s is ever going to be replaced. Not in the way that the current game is sort of shaped. And I don't think the rules sometimes, all the variations we've put into the game, for better or for worse, the way the game's played. I mean, I don't think the product, for argument's sake, is maybe as good as it was back in the 70s and 80s because you were relying on natural skill of your athletes back in those days, whereas now it's, you burp the wrong way on the football field and all of a sudden you've got 10 minutes in the bin.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's certainly a bit like that. But is Parramatta the team that Manly want to beat every time they play, or
Look,
is there another rival team that
I mean,
Manly
obviously
like to beat?
The Roosters
Yep.
are somebody that Manly sort of get on. Canterbury, for argument's sake, because of the Des Hasler going to Canterbury and then coming back to Manly.
Okay.
I think Canterbury would probably have etched a little bit in front of Parramatta as the dreaded opponent.
Right.
Parramatta is still very well up there. I mean, everybody's going to remember, but it's funny, there's Parramatta fans and Manly fans actually get on.
Well, yeah, we're talking now.
We're talking now, as I said, my association back to, a lot of the cheerleaders that sort of came through there with working with Lyndall Johns. I mean, the lady turns 80 this year. She's an absolute superstar. I mean, if there is an immortal in cheerleading, and then there's that person straight away.
Yeah, wow.
What she gave to the game, to the crowd entertainment side of the thing, from everything from doing Smurf shows onwards. Troy, bang. And people will work together in those sort of things.
Yeah.
I suppose the ethnic side of things these days, sometimes that sort of puts scepticism in the minds of people as to where they get. I think you guys have probably got a far more, how shall we say, strong anti-relationship between Parramatta and Canterbury these days.
Yep.
Those days that you get off the Strathfield railway station and head up through there when the games were being played at Accor Arena.
Yep.
There's all sorts of stories going through there. I mean, it's just the animosity that goes down there. Even walking down through Church Street, getting to the game, bang. Both sets of fans are really at it verbally and otherwise.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
almost like watching Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory fans go at each other.
Okay, yeah, I could imagine, and maybe Sydney FC and Wanderers fans as well.
Sydney FC and Wanderers definitely the same, but like having been involved with the Melbourne Victory Club for the last 5-6 years, their fans are as passionate as any sporting fan in Australia, if not more. And that's when you go back to talking about support,
Yep.
pushing the team to the next level. There it is. There. I mean, some of the chants that those soccer fans get, and I'll call it soccer because we've got so many different variations of the word football, whether it's league, union, or Aussie rules, and we're involved with all of them at Macron. So when you look at what happens with some of those soccer teams, yes, they have the hooligan element, but I tell you what, when it comes to actual support and getting behind their team, they are right up there alongside the rugby league ones.
Yeah, that's for sure. They are pretty passionate. I call it soccer as well. It's just easier for me. I grew up calling it soccer, and I find in recent times they have started to call it football in this country. But look,
Well, you got Aussie rules.
Yep.
You've got rugby union. You've got rugby league, and of course we've got the rugby league World Cup here at the end of this year. Then next year we have the rugby union World Cup.
That's it.
We've just had the Asia Cup for women's football, with a huge crowd there last night. Who said that nobody watches women's sport? Throw that out the door. You've got the Netball World Cup that'll happen, Netball World Championships that'll happen in between the rugby league and the rugby union championships. So again, it's sport lay down misere in Australia. I mean, people talk about the Australian nation being like the top sporting nation as far as per capita. The only one that probably rivals us is the blokes across the ditch in New Zealand. I mean, what they perform and what they achieve. We've just had the Winter Paralympics. Ben Tutto, for argument's sake. I mean, I went to school with both his mother and his auntie.
Okay.
Ben's a fantastic human being.
Yeah.
What he with cerebral palsy, what he does and what he brings to the thing. I mean, he took Australia's both medals in silver and gold, and silver and bronze there in the Winter Olympics. But a fantastic human being along the outside of it.
Yeah, those Paralympians, they are outstanding and amazing at what they do, especially to ski down some of those slopes and the like.
Troy, they've got no fear. They've got absolutely no fear at all.
Yeah, it's amazing. it's amazing, and I'm glad that they are representing our nation. That's for sure, because it's
It was great to see them welcome back into the country last week with the way the Australian public actually met them at the airport. It was great.
yeah, nah, definitely, for sure. Well, the Sea Eagles, we'll just spend a little bit more time on this one, but the Sea Eagles, they've won a comp in every decade since the 70s. Is there one coming in the 2020s?
Well, you'd like to think history will repeat itself and allow that to happen. I've got personal viewpoints about certain parts of the structure of the club at the moment.
Yep.
Probably starting with the coach, like everybody else in the fan club. But when you look at that, you just got to get teamwork's got to be, when they're cohesive, they're a great team.
Yep.
And I think the more Jamal Fogarty settles into his role at Manly, he'll do the thing there. But again, I think you've got to take the leaf out of the book, such as Parramatta have done for a certain extent. Canberra have definitely done it, and that is to bring forward your juniors.
Yeah, no, that's for sure.
Bring forward those younger players. And I mean, Manly's probably got Joey Walsh, you've got Anton Large, you've got a couple of very big boppers in the forwards that, rather than put the pedestrians out there, and the deadwood that's been around rugby league, and unfortunately I say that in the nicest possible way, but some of these players are past their use by date. You've got to bring these young players forward, otherwise it's going to be too late for them to be able to do anything.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit of a changing of the guard at the moment at Manly, and some tough times ahead, perhaps. Just have to wait and see what happens there. But Jake Trbojevic is under a little bit of pressure at the moment, which the Trbojevic brothers, they came out today and defended him like any good brother would do.
I'd hate to be the Roosters on Thursday night, because I think they might get one can of whoopers known as Jake Trbojevic right into their heads.
Well, yeah, if
their legs will be sore because they'll be sick of being tackled by him.
Oh, absolutely. Great defender, that's for sure. That will be the Manly Sea Eagles. They should win that game against, you would think, against the Roosters.
I love the Cook, mate. I'd love nothing better than Cook Chook on a Thursday night.
That's it. Well, let's get into the sporting industry, because, as I said at the top, you're probably the first guest that I've interviewed that has been involved in this side of things in terms of retailing and merchandise and stuff like that. I've had jersey designers and the like on before, but it's always been players or coaches or commentators. But I've got a couple of questions from Ben from the Corner Post, which are probably a little bit,
Ben.
yeah, which are probably a good sponsor of the podcast, the Corner Post, but they're probably a little bit similar to mine. But I said I'd ask you for him. But the first one is, what was it that got you into the sporting industry, and how did you know it was the one for you?
Came home from school one day in November of 1977. So people just count backwards on that one. You'll know that it's almost 50. Two blokes had bought a Mick Simmons sports store. One was a gentleman called Peter Ward. The other guy was a runner called Mel Story. Peter Ward's still a very good friend of mine to this day, and he's in his 80s now. He's a bowls coach and president of the Monavale Bowling Club. A lovely man. Gave me the opportunity at $2 an hour after school if I wanted to come and help him out in his sports store. So they bought what was the Mick Simmons store.
Okay, yeah.
And the weirdest thing in those days with all Mick Simmons stores, they were owned by Nelson Tobacco Company.
Oh, right, yeah.
So the ladies would come in to get their can of tennis balls and a carton of Winnie Blues at the same time. You had to sell cigarettes as part of the deal of the sale.
Oh, right,
So
okay.
I said, this is ridiculous. I'm selling a lady a pair of shoes and I've got to give her a carton of Winnie Blues to go. I said, that's not on. And not being a smoker, and I've never smoked in 65 years of being alive, but to have to sort of say, well, you're going to get benefit out of the tennis balls, but you're not going to get any benefit out of those things over there. Okie dokie, well, let's just see where they go.
Yeah.
Fortunate enough then, I ended up going, unfortunately, Peter ended up in a partnership fight. So we ended up closing that store down. And I went out to what was opening. It was Warriewood. There was a guy called Pat Bonham, who was an Irish soccer international.
Okay.
Had a sports store he was opening in Warriewood, had another one in North Sydney. Said, mate, any chance you'd like to try and run both the stores between them? So that started another friendship with Pat. He was also involved with the music industry. And he brought Bobby Charlton out to the opening of his store. So I got to meet the world-famous Bobby
yes.
Charlton on the day. So we went from that, and then all of a sudden there was a gentleman by the name of Tony Henson, whose son was they were involved with the C&D cricket helmets back in the day. And playing lower grade cricket down at Manly with 4th and 5th grade. but also the opportunity came then to go and work with Albion. So we actually worked with Albion, and
Okay.
we got to do a lot with. In those days, everybody used to get hit behind the thigh, behind just on the top end of the thigh, and down behind the back of the knee. So we actually changed the thigh pad into a peanut-shaped thigh pad, and that went on and did the thing. If you've got a long-time memory, you'll remember a guy called Les Boyd.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Les Boyd had a cracked sternum,
Okay.
and it was state of origin time. And we actually made out of the same foam, and being an avid Manly fan as well as New South Wales fan, we built him like a waistcoat jacket made out of this closed-cell foam.
Right.
He was able to go and play in the state of origin when he was told he was not going to be available.
Wow.
So we were able to sort of, shall we say, assist the New South Wales cause in those days.
Yeah.
Nice guy, Les. I mean, he got white line fever. As soon as he hit the sideline, when he goes over the white line, he was a very aggressive player. But on the other side of the white line, butter would melt in his mouth.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. As the years
And
go,
then just progressed through the years after that. Both went into repping, went overseas. I'm fortunate enough that I've been able to go both in the international side of things and then also the Australian side of things in the sporting industry and the toy industry.
Ah, nice. Well, I'm sure you've seen plenty of stadiums across the world. How do you think Combank Stadium ranks against some of the stadiums that you've seen in the world? And what is the greatest stadium that you've seen, that you visited?
Depends what sport you come to, Troy. I mean, if you go into cricket, then seeing the likes of the Lords and those sort of things there are just an amazing thing to do. JJB Stadium in England.
Yep.
You can see Old Trafford, where Manchester United played out of there for a while as well. You go to the US and you go to something like Petco Park where you're watching the baseball, and it's another world. You go into the basketball stadiums over there; they're another world. I remember the late, I've forgotten his name now, the guy that actually bought the Sydney Kings and owned them, along with Andrew Lazarus and everything else like that. They once looked at the American system for crowd entertainment and realised that the Australian systems were for the Sydney Kings, and I was involved with the Sydney Supersonics, but the Sydney Kings, for argument's sake, had a great performance area by the time they got through it all.
Yeah, no, they. I went to a Kings game way back when I was a kid. I haven't been since, but I should get around to one of those because I think they're in the finals again this year. And
they've won game one of the final against Adelaide, so they gave Adelaide an absolute toweling on Saturday night in game one of the grand final series.
Oh, that's good.
I suppose even though we are New South Wales people, we have to pay homage to the MCG, having been to a couple of AFL grand finals down there, courtesy of the Port Adelaide Association with Macron.
Yep.
When you get the chance to watch a game at the MCG, or in those now that we've got this lovely sponsor that is the benefactor for the AFL, where they get their entertainment that they want, and of course they've had Robbie Williams. Fortunate enough to see that one. Fortunate enough to see the Kiss concert that was part of their farewell tour, and that was the grand final there. And we were looking straight at Gene Simmons from where we were on the first level of the grandstand.
Wow.
Amazing. I mean, the MCG with 100,000 people in it, great. You're going to have the NFL coming out here at the end of the year. One of my mates, his best mate is Matt Stafford.
Okay.
From the LA team. So he'll be interesting to watch how that happens. That game coming out. So you've got San Francisco and the what are they called? The Rams
LA Rams, yeah.
LA Rams. So he's the quarterback for the Rams. So.
Yeah.
No, voted the number one player in the NFL this year, so it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. And it's a live game, which is going to be even better.
Yeah, that's for sure. And just a quick question on that. Obviously, that's played on a rectangle field. It's going to be at the MCG. What are your thoughts about rectangle games being played on a rectangle field? Because I think we're seeing the State of Origin for Rugby League being played there this year, game number 2. So I'm not a big fan of it because you seem to be so far away from the ground. What are your thoughts?
Look, I'll give you the reference in that one quite easily. It was Wrexham last year. We had Wrexham, the team owned by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhaney. It's been sponsored by Macron for a number of years. But they came to Australia for that tour for the week.
Okay, yep.
They played one game at Etihad Stadium in Melbourne, square game, round ground. Did not work. Did not work at all. They came then up here and they played at the old Sydney, what they call it now, the Allianz Stadium.
Okay, yep.
Square game, square ground. Great venue, great facility. great performance. The whole thing looked a whole lot better, and then they went off to New Zealand. But putting square games on round grounds just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Something has to give when you're doing it.
Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly as well. I think maybe with the NFL it might be a little bit different because you got so many people involved on the sideline for NFL. Might be a little bit
I was
different.
going to say, you need enough room to be able to pack the bloody associated squad that goes with them. As you say, they have so many extras.
Yeah, yeah. No,
When you've got kicking coaches, you've got punting coaches, you've got your boot laces, something to do their boots up. Everything's possible.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's for sure. Well, as the years have gone on of yourself being in the industry, many changes to products and the landscapes of sports apparel and the like have changed. What changes have you seen, both good and bad, take place?
Well, you look at a tennis racket, for argument's sake. We went from having a wooden tennis racket for many years, made out of ash, maple ash and that sort of thing. We then went through the aluminium stage, the Jimmy Connors with the T2000s and the T3000s out of the Wilson range. We then went into this weird and wonderful thing called graphite. And I remember at the time we had Bjorn Borg using Donne because I was involved with Donne in Australia.
Okay.
And they had he was using still the old wooden racket and they changed him across into graphite, which he actually struggled with at first trying to work it out. You look at any other sport, look at the rugby league, for argument's sake, rugby union. We've gone from a full leather ball and I've still got a good old-fashioned Steeden pigskin behind me sitting in my little mini showroom here, but we've now gone into a synthetic ball.
Okay.
Originally, the ball came out of Germany because of the dimple that was on it. On some of the ones, when you inflated it, what happens is there was too much separation, so the ball became too slippery to hold.
Right.
So that's how they got this ball back in there. But we've gone from the ball in that sort of area. Cricket, we've gone to different areas. I mean, a friend of mine owns the Grey Nichols cricket factory in India. Wow. When you look at the products that they make over there and what they've developed with cricket over the years, English willow as against Indian willow. They now get to the stage, Troy, where when they grow the English willow tree in England, they bring it into India to do it, and they use absolutely every single bit of that tree gets used.
Yeah,
wow. Football jerseys, we've gone from the good old-fashioned cotton, heavy-duty cotton one, which we used to wear as kids around school and all that sort of stuff. You got wet in those things. Took you half an hour to get the damn thing off.
Yeah, definitely.
But now we've gone to this lovely thing, we've gone to a completely different area, sublimated, everything's possible. It's the advertiser's dream. They rip a lot quicker, when you get into scenarios like that.
Okay.
But it's a different look. Ryan Girdley used to love it because they could be as tight as possible. And he used to think, well, they can't tackle me because they can't grip me.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was part of the deal between them. They were able to make that jersey, but again, like everything else, the cost of those things goes up. I mean, everybody looks at it, unfortunately, when we were kids, you grew up a footy jersey probably cost you $79.99 to $100, and that was about it. Now you're looking at $170 to get yourself a jersey.